Thank you for joining me today for this unscripted, behind the scenes episode of the Beyond the Clinic podcast. And I wanted to do this a bit of spur of the moment, off the cuff podcast because I've made a bit of a decision in my business today. And while it's fresh in my mind, I wanted to share it with you. So I'm going to be talking to you today about why I'm going to be closing my Facebook group that's got over 6,000 members. So my Facebook group is called the Children's Nutritionists Community, and I opened it back in 2019. And at the time, I probably had that business going in the form it's in now for about 2 years. So I wasn't really seeing that many private patients. I saw a few, but I've certainly started to dive into the online space. And I really wanted to have this closed community as a safe space, a place where parents could connect with each other, where they could start to build that know and trust factor with me. And obviously the intention behind it was to nurture an audience of people who would potentially go on and become my customers and my clients. So when I opened the group, I was really excited because I opened it in 2019 and within hours I had people joining it. Somehow they had just stumbled across the group and they'd found it and they'd joined it. And it was really exciting. And actually the growth of the group was really quite rapid in probably the first 3 years or so. I would get new members coming all of the time. And what I started to do was when I would publish a blog post, for example, I would mention the Facebook group and people would come that way. When I might publish a new lead magnet on the thank you page, there might be a, hey, why don't you come and join my Facebook group? When I was using Instagram, I would also mention the Facebook group. So I had lots of different ways to attract people to come into the group. And so it did grow rapidly. It grew quite quickly, up to probably about 4,000 members in the first couple of years. As it stands today, I've got just under 6,000 members in the group. And over the last couple of years, that growth has slowed down. And when I was looking at my stats, it's down to about 500 new members that I've had in the last year or so. By no stretch of the imagination is this small. It's a decent-sized community. There's lots and lots of people in there. So you might be thinking, Sarah, isn't this madness that you're thinking about closing this group? And I'm going to dive into why I've taken that decision in a minute. So the Facebook group, when it first started, it was lovely. It was somewhere where I'd show up about once a week. I'd have a regular slot and I'd deliver a live session. It was where I grew my confidence doing live video because at the start I really wasn't very happy doing lives, particularly in like public spaces. But in the group, it felt like a nice private community. It made me feel secure, and there was only the people there who really knew me and wanted to be there. So I would deliver these live sessions every week, and I would alternate between some form of teaching and maybe a Q&A session. And it was also a really great place for me to pitch my offers. So when I was practicing selling, when I didn't really have many skills and knowledge about selling, and I was practicing pitching my offers to people, it was a lovely place where I could do that as well. So back in the day, I'd have sessions on things like baby-led weaning cook-alongs. I might just do a talk on breakfast ideas for when you're in a rush. I would explain what I'd been learning when I'd been doing all my research around positive food parenting and diving into picky eating. Yes, it does seem like a little bit of a crazy decision to wave goodbye to this potential goldmine, but the engagement in that group has significantly dwindled, especially over the last year or so. So since about January or so, we are only getting maybe 1 or 2 posts from our group members in a week, which is not very much at all. I've been paying a community manager to moderate the group and support the members. And I've been doing this for the last 3 or 4 years or so. And to be honest, this last 6 months, it's just not been worth her salary. She was on holiday a few weeks ago and I took over, and I was really shocked at how the engagement had reduced so much in that group just in the last few months. So the other thing I found was that whenever I posted something in the group, the reach of that post was actually minuscule. It was tiny, it was hardly going to anybody. So, for example, when I post my announcement today to say to everyone that the group is going to be closing, and I last looked at it, it had only reached 73 people out of the 6,000 odd that are in that group. And I posted that about 4 hours ago. So even the stuff that I want to tell people just isn't getting into people's news feeds at all. So I could sit here and I could blame the Facebook algorithm, saying when we first started in Facebook groups did work, but now they don't because the algorithm's changed and nobody really knows exactly how it works. But actually, if truth be told, I haven't put in anywhere near as much effort into the group as I used to at the beginning. Those lives that I used to do every single week, I haven't done a single live in the last 18 months or so. And I think, like many of us in business, I've probably spread myself a bit too thin. If I think about it and I have a look at my own Facebook profile and how many groups I'm actually in, I'm in about 400 of them. And to be honest, I hardly go into any of them. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people in my Facebook group who have done exactly the same thing as well. I've actually been thinking about closing this Facebook group for a while, but I've been scared. I've been really frightened to do it in case there's all of this untapped potential sitting there and I'm just going to wave goodbye to it. But I've come to a decision, and here are my reasons why I've decided to do that and why today is the day. The first thing is it's not really a very good shop window for the children's nutritionist as a brand. I still get member requests every single day, but my brand has really evolved over the years. My main focus is now helping parents with their children's fussy eating, but it didn't used to be. I used to do quite a lot of stuff around weaning babies, and actually many of my new members are parents of babies who are looking for guidance and advice around weaning. Somebody requested to join my group today who said that they were joining because they had a child with multiple food allergies. I'm not an allergy specialist and I wouldn't be able to help that person. And so I just feel as if people who may be coming into this community, they're not going to get the support that they really need, and certainly not the support that I feel confident enough and qualified enough these days to actually give them. But in addition to that, it doesn't really look great, does it? When new people find me and they come into the group and the engagement's really poor, it's a reflection of my business and it's not the image that I want my business to portray. So I'm no longer showing up to do those weekly lives, as I mentioned, and I don't think that looks really great for my potential customers as well, because it doesn't show how I support people. So instead, what I've done is I've gone all in on Instagram, and my DMs are never closed. So I'm more than happy to help people there. It's not that I've withdrawn all of that support. I've just moved it to a different place. And the other thing, of course, is I send out emails to my list almost every single day, giving away free tips, giving away advice. I've got a huge blog on my website with loads and loads of valuable information and recipes. So there is a lot of value out there. I just think Facebook group is possibly not the right place for me to be sharing that at the moment. It feels like it's a bit of a mismatch compared to all the other public-facing aspects of my business. So in a nutshell, I just don't think it's painting me or my business in a very good light. So the other reason why I've come to this decision is I want to simplify things in my business in order to speed up. So at the beginning of this year, my overarching word for the year was simplify. And the reason for that is I began the year with 9 different income streams. I had a team of 7 members of staff, and I had 2 separate limited companies. And I also started the year with a feeling of utter exhaustion. I am someone who works a lot, and I am someone who is very hardworking and really disciplined, and I will get on and do something if it's something that I want to do. But I also am aware that burnout is a real thing. So I said that was my word at the beginning of the year, but I'd worked right up until Christmas Eve. I'd taken Christmas Day off and I'd taken Boxing Day off, and then I was straight back into work after that. So at the beginning of 2024, I knew that I just needed to simplify things in order to optimize the business's growth. I was just so busy, and the busyness wasn't necessarily leading to more income. Anything that didn't feel like it had an obvious return on investment was on the list for removal. So a couple of months before the end of last year, I'd already decided that we were going to stop offering one-to-one consultations in the business. I was going to let go of a couple of team members, and I was going to replace that service with a more passive income stream. You know me, I'm all about passive income and working smarter and not harder. I'd also changed my support team, and things were starting to feel a bit less heavy. That sense of freedom was starting to come back because I wasn't constantly managing staff. I wasn't constantly editing and checking people's work. I wasn't constantly supervising. But there was still this niggling ball and chain around my neck called a dying Facebook group that in order to revive it, I knew it was going to need a lot of my time and a lot of my energy and a lot of my attention. And so it did sit on the back burner for a while, 6 months. It is the middle of June, nearly the end of June. So it sat there for a long while until I had the confidence to decide today that I was going to close it. It wasn't something that I wanted to give my time, my energy, and attention to. I know that I can use my face, I can use my voice, I can use my unique skill set on other aspects of my business, and that I can help people in a better way. And actually, I can also use that energy and helping people in a way that leads to more income generating activity in my business, rather than trying to just revive essentially what is a dying Facebook group. So the third reason is I actually don't really like social media very much. I know, shock horror, because I talk about using social media all the time in business, but outside of business, I hardly use social media. In fact, I don't even have personal accounts. And fortunately, I'm in a position where I have a social media team who create content, who schedule my content so that I don't have to spend hours and hours on the platform. I actually find it really triggering. It leads me to feelings of inadequacy. It leads me to feelings of comparisonitis. Being on social knocks my confidence. It affects my mood. And so I just avoid it. It's just better for my mental health to avoid it. So because of this, I'd moved all of my paid communities in the Children's Nutritionist over to a private platform. I use Kajabi to host my courses and my memberships, and it has a community element, and that runs alongside the courses and the memberships really beautifully. And so what that's meant is I haven't needed to open the Facebook app if I didn't want to, because it's all of the stuff that I do around supporting my clients is over in my Kajabi community. But because I had a bit of a niggle and I was a bit frightened to close this community, I decided this year I was going to run a bit of a test. And because I am fortunate enough to have a social media team who produce most of my content, I took that same content and I put it on Facebook, and I had it on Instagram anyway, and just looked at what the results were on both of those. And hands down, Instagram won the game. The same content, the same posts got more engagement. They had a greater reach. There was more DM conversations happening in my DM inbox. And actually I had more sales, which is what it's all about when we're running a business. So Instagram absolutely won for me in comparison to Facebook. So don't get me wrong. I think Facebook groups can be a fantastic place for you to nurture a community, to generate leads for your business. But my best advice for you is just to pick one social media platform and stick with it. Go all in on and learn everything you can about optimizing that platform. And that platform may very well be a Facebook group for you, but don't do that as well as Instagram or TikTok or Threads or X, etc., etc., until you have a team, of course. And when you have a team, and I'm talking about a marketing team, not an intern or another clinician who helps you, but when you have a marketing team, they can look after a second platform for you and you can expand that way. And then secondly, if you do go for a Facebook group, keep it very niche. Be crystal clear on who you help and the problem that you solve. Mine was called the Children's Nutritionist Community, and that meant I had anyone and everything in there. So I hope this has been a helpful behind the scenes episode for you. I hope you've been able to take away something from this, and I hope you understand why I've taken this decision to close my Facebook group with those 6,000 members and why it is the right thing for me to do in my business. And at some point in the future, you will also have difficult decisions like this to make in your business as well. And I hope I've given you the confidence to be able to make those decisions when it's the right thing for you. Bye for now.